All right, here we go, guys. We're going live. I hope you can hear me, because we are live from lockdown. Just let me know if you can hear me there, guys. Loud and clear. Awesome. All right, no countdown this week. We just went straight into it. I mean, I guess we sort of had a countdown-ish kind of thing. Just want to make sure everyone's there. Yes, wonderful. Okay. So, good to see you guys. We are live from lockdown, episode number 69. Wow, that is a lot of live from lockdowns. So good to see you guys. By the way, if you guys are here right now, it's 1 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday. If you're watching this right now, we are live. If you are not watching it this time, you're watching the replay. So you're part of the replay crew, and that's awesome. But for those who are live right now, good to see you. A lot of regulars in the house there. A lot of familiar names and faces. Great to see you guys. If you're new here, welcome. You've come to the right place. Just say hello, and there's a very friendly bunch of people here. I'll be more than happy to welcome you to Live from Lockdown. Now, Bruce is in the house. The Bruce is loose. Bruce is our resident drink getter and moderator. So, for those of you who know Bruce Bicknell from sunny Florida, he is keeping an eye on the chat. He'll take care of any needs you have. If you're having problems with the stream, just restart, just hit refresh a lot of the time. That will fix it. If you're wondering, is there going to be a replay? Yes, the replay will be live right after this is finished. And I think that's all the stuff I've got to get out of the way. Oh, yeah, kind of funny thing. Yes, we really are live. I have some people occasionally say that I'm pretending to be live, which is awesome. I don't actually see the purpose in pretending to be live, because it's actually much easier to take a video and then edit it and make it perfect than it is to do a video live afterwards. So if you're watching it live, it's live. If you're watching the replay, then no, it's not live. If you're live, you'll see a chat. You can join in that chat. Say hello to everybody. If you're watching the replay, comments underneath. Drop your comments in there. I read them all, and I'll respond accordingly. So anyway, guys, all of that out of the way. This week, we are doing something exciting. We are going to be doing compositing. Have we done it before? Yes. Will we do it again? Yes. And we're doing it this week as well. All right, let me get you guys over to my screen. All right, don't worry, Jason, you're here right on time. No one's late. By the way, I didn't send out a message on social media, so everyone here is either you got the notifications on YouTube or you got my email. Let me know which one of you is which. And Russ is saying Colin's on his 4K on his Sony. Actually, my 8K. Did I say 4K? 8K, yes. And let you guys know, I actually shot my first in-studio shoot yesterday with the Sony A1, which was really exciting. I'll give you, talk more about that later. I'm going to do a review eventually. But I did shoot probably 3,000 photos. We did several shoots. I'm really putting that thing through its paces right now and enjoying it. See a lot of people from email, people from both. Some get notifications from YouTube. And if you guys want to know how to get the email, it's very simple. Just go to photoshopcafe.com. And then you'll see a link there on the website which says, free tutorials. You'll see one that says live streams. So click on live streams, and then I might as well just show you on the camera since I'm talking to you. And then you see the live streams. And then you just go down on the live streams. You'll see a little box there that enables you to sign up. Now, there's our regular mailing list, which if you're on our regular mailing list, you're not necessarily going to get notifications for the live streams, because that's just for that. So if you sign it, even if you are on our regular list, and you don't get notifications or emails from me about the live streams, that's because you need to sign up on that box there. Because I only hit that group, which is just a very, very small percentage of our mailing list. Because I don't want to, this is the live stream. People are interested in the live stream. It's its own little tight community. And, if you want to be part of that, awesome. Fill out the little box, and I'll send you an email whenever I go live. All right, back to the desktop. I have no sound. I'm sorry you have no sound, Chris Bacon. Sounds like everybody else does. Some dude named Colin told me to jump on. There you go, Bruce. All right, get on, Bruce, would you? And he's like, oh, yeah. Here we go, live streams. All right, guys. So this week's going to be fun. Looks like we've got some, we got quite a few people coming in here. Don't forget to smash that like button. I haven't given you a reason to smash the like button yet, unless you love my, I don't know, whatever. I will stop there before I go into terrible self-deprecating, whatever humor. I'm good at that. All right, so we're going to go into, let me make sure the screen is here, and I'll put myself in the left. Some people complain they don't like my face in the corner, especially when my face is in the corner when it shouldn't be and it's covering up the menu. So what do you guys prefer? Do you prefer, I have a little face in the corner and I keep it out of the way of the interface? Or do you just prefer just a desktop and I don't show my face? Let me know in those comments. Face, no face. And, happy to please. I won't take it. Well, thank you, Doctor, for the kind super chat there. Learn PS, just because we tutor like you. Lots of love from India. Thank you. Thank you very much. Harshwarden? Dr. Harshwarden? I think I'm saying it right. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going facing corner. People like my faces. Oh, well, thank you, guys. You're very nice. I appreciate that. Just a desktop. Lonnie doesn't like my face. That's okay. I won't take it personally. Of course, I don't take it personally. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be doing some compositing. We're going to be combining images. That means we're going to be doing several phases, which are important. First phase is selecting images that are going to work. Second phase is cutting them out, getting rid of the background. The third phase is making sure just the fundamentals work, like lighting coming from the same direction, shadows, things like that. And then comes the next phase where we just make it all come together, where we start to match the tone, we match the color, and then put a little atmosphere in and maybe some dodging burn, whatever it takes to kind of cement it together and make it one piece. So everyone can hear me now. Great, Chris. I'm glad to hear that. All right, so I'm going to be honest with you. What am I going to combine? I literally have no idea at the moment. So this is the fun thing about Live from Lockdown. So I've got some pictures here from Adobe Stock. They're not sponsoring this or anything like that, but they have given me some free images, which is nice of them. And Adobe Stock is a service that I love. All right, so here's this picture here, the hippie girl. And because it says beautiful hippie girl with guitar. And then I see this mountain panorama that looks cool. Why don't we pop her against the mountain? The factory looks interesting too, but let's do that. We're going to combine these two images. So what I'm looking for is just images that are going to work together. So let me tell you a little bit about the thought process, popping you onto the desktop here. I'm looking for, what's going to tell a story. Okay, so we've got a girl here. She's sitting outdoors. And we've got this guitar. It's a nice kind of a nature scene. So, we could go for a very strong juxtaposition and pop her into a futuristic skyline. And that's going to be kind of fun. I mean, if I was going to do something like maybe put trees, but put them in glass cubes or something, I would do that. So it would be kind of like a museum in a dystopian future. So you could go for something very different, or you can go for something complementary. I'm going for something complementary. And I'm looking at this nice backdrop here, and I'm thinking, okay, some nature in the background. This is going to work nicely, and I'm also seeing, it's kind of brownish grass here. It's a very dryish kind of a place, deserty maybe. So that's kind of working. So I'm not putting an icicle in the background, which would be kind of cool to do a snowy mountain, and and you could do that. So some of the things I'm thinking about storytelling is, do you want to do a juxtaposition? Do you want to do something that's just very, very different and doesn't belong together, which is definitely going to get attention? It's going to be very jarring. Or do you want something that's just going to be kind of working together and be a little bit more believable? So just something to think about. Okay, so I'm going to right click. We're going to open these in Photoshop. Right now I'm in Bridge. This will work same in Camera Raw. So when you open here, you'll find Photoshop in this list of things. There's Photoshop. So I can just open these images in Photoshop, which is what we're going to do. But I'm just going to show you another option, little tip. You go into Tools and you could choose to Photoshop. And then you could load files into Photoshop layers. So rather than just open your two images in Photoshop, if we open it here, it will create a document with the two images on separate layers. You know what? Why don't we do that? Let's do it. I'll do both just so I can show you guys the difference, how it works. Because this is a really good time-saving thing to do. And so right now the spinning beach ball is going, meaning that it wants to do something. Yeah, we just hit yes, and it's going to open them inside layers. So here we go. We've got our backdrop and then that image. So it's going to go to the size of the largest image, which is our backdrop, and then it's going to fit the smaller image on top. Now, Let me just go back, just because I told you I would. If I was going to open two other images, like maybe these guys and this, and I right click and I choose open in Photoshop, this will still get us there. Let's just open with Photoshop. And yeah, you can still see the screen from down there, Stu. Awesome. All right, good. So you can see that screen. Okay, so here's the difference between this. We just get them there versus, this will just kind of get us a head start. Now, if you want to work on the images individually, like maybe extract them on their own images and do things like that, you could do that. Now, you could do a quick thing. Let me just show you something. If I want to combine these, I'm holding over there. Notice that cursor is black right now. I haven't let go of the mouse at the moment. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and release. It's going to drop that right in the middle. So that's a way to combine the photos for those of you who are a little bit newer. People have been using Photoshop for a while. You know that. All right, so I'll just do something fun real quick. Control T. This is not our composite bit. Let's make one. So these guys are watching this. You can pop TV on. You can put the car there. I'm just going to position this image. And why don't we blend it together? It'd be kind of fun. First of all, I want to make a selection. So let's just grab our quick select tool here. Choose select subject. Maybe it'll do a good job. Maybe it won't. Yep, good enough for rock and roll. Looks good like that. So I'm going to save this selection because I want to use it later. So I'm going to choose select, save selection. And now I'm just going to turn off the selection. So I just made a selection, not using it yet, but we've just got it there for later. And what I want to do is I want to blend these two together. Quick way to blend two images together, put one on top of the other on the layers panel. Then we're going to click to create a layer mask. So now that we've created a layer mask, and here I am in the bottom. Hey guys. I want to blend these two together. So I'm going to grab the gradient tool here and just hit the D key. The reason I want to, and I'll just pop this up so you can see everything in the toolbar. That little arrow, by the way, goes single column, double column. And I want to reset the colors. So the D key is default, sets it to black and white. So it's the quickest way to get to black and white is hit that D key. Interesting thing is you can't set your own defaults. Photoshop just has the defaults as black and white, which works fine for me. So up the top here, I'm just going to choose the foreground to background option. Make sure it's linear. The mode is normal and opacity is 100. All right, so we're just going to click on the edge. Now you don't want to start outside of that line or you'll see a line in there. You want to start just inside the line. And then I'm going to drag it across a little bit. So this gradient is going to appear, or this blend is going to appear in that line. So if I go short here, it's going to do a very, very abrupt. If I go across here, it's going to be more gradual. So I'm going to take it to this area. Why am I taking it to this area? Because that means all the faces and everything are going to be solid, and the blend is going to happen between the two lines. So the arms are going to start to blend just a little bit, and the feet. So I let go. We get a nice blend going one image into the other. Now, I want to bring back the arms. Actually, these ones are pretty good. Maybe the foot stuff there. So this is why I saved the selections. Now we go back to select, and we can choose to load selection. Now that we're loading this selection, I can click in here. Alpha 1 is going to be what's going to be there by default. It's always going to show. It says a mask. Why is that checked? Because notice right now we're on the layer mask. If we were on the layer, it would show. The channel would actually just show that layer 1 right there. But because we're on the mask, it shows mask. But we don't want to use that. We want to load the selection from Alpha 1. And just click OK. And notice that selection that we saved earlier on now appears. Is it perfect? No. Does it need to be? No. Let's grab our quick selection tool and we're going to refine this. So I'm just going to hold down the Alt or the Option key, and that's going to give me the minus. And that's just going to enable me to just take away. And I just basically taking this rough selection that we got before, just enhancing it a little bit. Now, I don't really care about all the rest of this because I just want to use it to help me make this arm, maybe this hand solid again, and these feet. So I'm just going to go back on that mask, grab a brush. So the B key will take you to the brushes, or just choose the brush. Make sure we have a soft edge brush size. Turn hardness all the way down. And I'm going to use a brush. Now I want to make the brush smaller, so I'm going to hold down the Control, Alt, or Option on the Mac. That would be right click, right mouse click, and Alt on Windows. And then if I drag up or down, I can change the hardness, drag to the left, makes the brush smaller, to the right makes it bigger. So I'm changing the size of the brush. And now I'm going to paint with black. When we're working on a layer, the black is the area that is, actually the black is going to be hidden. So we want to paint with white, we want to show this. So let's paint with white. Make sure opacity and flow is at 100. And now I'm just painting over here, and notice as I do that, it just brings this back up. So it removes the transparency, but just around the area that's selected. So this means I don't have to be a wizard with the brush, just follow the selection. Paint by numbers. Simple. And then Control D turns off the selection, and now we've got this, you know, hey, they're pointing. I mean, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's kind of fun. They're immersed in the movie. And also the interesting thing about these masks, I don't know if this will look any good, but you can apply things like drop shadows on there. So I can go in here, choose a drop shadow. Now, when you see the drop shadow working here on the blend, sometimes you can turn that off by going under the blending options. And the layer mask hides the blend. See, when I do that, turn that layer mask off. Now we've just got a nice smooth blend, and it's not showing those weird colors in there anymore. But that might also enable me from making my drop shadow work, but let's see. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so if I wanted to create that, I would probably just have to make that selection again. Or let me just do it. Control J. That copies that. Let me choose the layer underneath. I'm going to fill it with black. And then I would have to just, like, literally just start to work these drop shadows in. Probably the best way to do it actually would just be use that selection I made, but this will work. So I'm just dropping a little drop shadow in there, just kind of, you know, just make it simple. Not trying to make it perfect. All right, so that's just kind of a little, you know, touch on some of the things. Now the colors don't match and all that kind of stuff. Now if you watched this week's tutorial, let me show, if you wanted to make the colors match, this week on Tuesday I did a tutorial showing how to use the eyedroppers. So if we're going to use something like the levels, so this is a different way than maybe I've shown you guys before, but I want to neutralize the color. I just grabbed this. This is that white balance tool, and I look for an area that should be white. The teeth maybe, click on there, and maybe a little much. So if that doesn't work, just click on another area, like maybe her outfit. There we go. And you can remove the color cast maybe in the eye. You can do that. Just that will do a nice job of doing it if you find the right spot. So there we go. So we'll just click around until you find something. There we go. That looks pretty good. I'm not really worried about the color underneath in the car. We'll fix that. So the other thing you can do is we can grab the shadow. So we can use the black eyedropper. I want to see the darkest part of the image. Hold down the Alt or the Option key, drag it across, and I can see the darkest part is in there. So take the black, tap it in the darkest part. Notice that fixes a lot of color. Now we take the white. We want to go to the lightest part. Hold down the Alt or the Option key, pull it back. I can see we've got some white in her shirt. And let's see. Maybe a little bit of those teeth starts to appear. I see Mama's teeth up here is pretty bright. So we can tap in there. Notice that that really starts to neutralize it. Then you grab this. And if there was an area that was like a neutral gray in here, it would work really nice. I'm not sure there is. If you're unsure, just start tapping. Just, you know, hey, tap on the couch, tap in some different areas, and try to remove that. If it doesn't work, just undo it. All right, so that's just kind of basically how we can neutralize that a little bit. If we look at before and after, I'm just kind of applying that. Now, there's an easier way of doing that. Let's just go on this layer here. We're going to select this layer. And let me show you another way to neutralize the color. If we go under Image Adjustments, and if one doesn't work, then the other method will work. So, you know, there's many ways of doing things. Like that one didn't work that well because we didn't have an area of neutral gray. So if you have an area of neutral gray, you're going to find the eyedropper method works. Otherwise, we're just going to go in here. We're going to use the match color and hit the neutralize, and boom, that'll get rid of it. Nice. Okay, so we click OK, and we were able to get rid of the color cast there. Sweet. Now, if I wanted to apply some kind of a color over the top of everything, I could. Let me show you different ways of doing it. We're going to grab an adjustment layer here, and why don't we use a LUT? So we're going to go to the color lookup, And under the color lookup here, we're going to load a 3D light. You just click on it and all the lights that come with Photoshop are there. I wish there was a preview, there isn't. So let's just grab something like, I don't know, maybe this Kodak looks good. Nah, don't like that. So let's try some different ones. Fuji. And see how you can just kind of click through and see how they look. So we're just looking until we see something that looks something you like, maybe. Candlelight, that's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to take that, it's a little strong. Take the opacity, crank it all the way down, and then just add a little bit. There we go. And so you can kind of do these kinds of things. It feels like the background needs to be a little brighter. I'm just going to hit Control L for levels. And, oh, hey, you know what? Let me get rid of that unnecessary drop shadow, too. It's not doing anything for us. And I'm just going to hit Control L and just apply it directly on the layer. Normally I'll do an adjustment layer, but I just want to brighten it up a little bit so we can move on. And now we're matching the brightness. You know, the color, if you like it with the color cast, if you don't like it with the color cast. If you like the color cast and you don't like the tones, you can change it. So here's another thing that's useful, is if you use color, now it's only going to apply the color and not the tonality. If you like it the other way, choose luminosity. And notice how luminosity is not going to change the color, just the darkness. I actually kind of like that in luminosity mode. So anyway, there's some different things you can do. All right, let's go to our composite that we're actually making. So hopefully those little fundamentals you guys found useful there. So we're going to grab our hippie girl, and I'm thinking I'm going to take this all the way to the left. Why am I taking it all the way to the left? Because I don't want to have to try and fix that. So sometimes you're just taking the easy way out. So if I go this way, I'm going to be able to have the rocks and stuff behind her without having to fix the left side of the image. All right. Are we going to be able to cut this out? Who knows? Let's find out. So here's an interesting selection tool. I'm just going to duplicate the layer, Control J, in case I don't like what happens. And this might be a good one for this. So we're going to choose Select, and then we're going to use Focus Area. This might not work at all, and it might work. Let's see. There we go. So what this is doing is it's literally using the depth of field or the in focus area to try and isolate the edges. So I'm just kind of moving it in here, and there's the sweet spot in there. Now, I could use this in different ways. See that little plus? Watch what happens if I go in here. There we go. So we can use, like, there's the minus tool, and what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of influencing it a little bit. Yeah, that's a little aggressive. It's not going to work like that. So let me just undo that. I'm going to hold down the Alt or the Option key, hit reset. That will reset this dialog box. Let's change the in focus length. What happens if we hit auto? Let's see how good the auto works. Not bad. So if we want to cut it out there, that's going to sort of work. It's not too bad. Now, if we want to be able to use some of the tools inside of Photoshop, we have the option to put this into layers, selections, all that fun stuff. So we're going to use the selection. And I'm going to choose the Select to Mask option. So here we are inside of Select to Mask. Just nudge that. It's kind of buggy like that. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. The opacity always has to be nudged to display correctly. And then we're going to grab our Refine tool here. And we're going to run this around the edges and see how this does. This is a nice thing about doing unscripted live. We have no idea if it's going to work or not. But I think it will. Now, here's the advantage of doing pre-recorded video is if I try a technique like this and it doesn't work, then I just hit erase, grab another tool, and then I just re-record the video with, with something that does work. So when you're live, you don't get the luxury of doing that, which makes it fun and exciting and nerve-wracking. Okay, so I'm just going in here and we're just seeing how that goes for cleaning up these edges. Because when you're working in the real world, you get to hit the undo button. When you're live, you don't get to hit the undo button. All right. So I'm just kind of moving around those edges. It's looking pretty good. And I just want to show this edge for a second so we can see this. That's what I've been doing. And let's just give it a little nudge on the radius. And by the way, guys, if you're enjoying this in any way at all, do me a favor and hit that like button. All right, so we just want to show that radius. I'm going to move it just enough that I get a very thin line. See that thin line there? Now, I don't like it around the guitar and stuff. That's not good, so I'm going to take this and... That's not even going to show there. That's interesting. Okay. Let's go back to that 1 pixel radius. Okay, so we see that line. I'm going to take off show edge. And what that does is it's just looking at the image. And see how these edges look a little bit better now? That little thin edge kind of helps with those. The hair in some of these areas, we just get to mask that and fix it. I can actually use the masking tool here if I want, just by painting back in. This is the paint tool. See that? Now, I've had people ask me about this. Should I use hard or soft brushes? Just depends on what you're painting. If I'm going to go here and I want to paint in a sharper edge, I'm going to use a harder brush. See that? If you've got a softer edge, then you can use soft brush. Now, if you hold down the Alt or the Option key, they'll give you the minus key, and you can paint this away. Now, we can do this afterwards, too, if we wanted, with the layer masks inside of Photoshop. Let me just take some water here. That's right, Melanie. When we're live, we find out what works and what doesn't. Oh, thanks, Charles. You're saying, you know... So then you find out, oh, wow, you know, just because someone's on YouTube doesn't mean that everything they do works the first time. No, but the edited video does. So, yeah, we struggle. You know, instructors struggle with the same thing that everybody struggles with. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. All right, so that's pretty good. I'm not going to clean that up there right now. Maybe I can grab this. I'm kind of a little nervous if I go in here and try it, but let's see what we get. Yeah. Let's undo that. Control Z. And I'm going to hit the minus key. Whoa, see, that didn't work either. All right, we'll come back. All right, so some of the things that we can do here, too, is I want to go down a little bit. Now, notice that I didn't use the refine hair on this, because there's so much of the other image that is not here. I don't want to use it on this particular image. If it was, you know, just a headshot of a person up close, head and shoulders, you know, something like that, I would be using the refine hair. Now, I'm going to choose decontaminate colors. Now, notice when I hit that, that cleans it up a little bit. And let's play with the amount. Take the amount all the way down. And now we're just going to slowly increase it. Yeah, that's looking, that's working. We're getting there. Okay, so now I want to output this as a layer with a layer mask. Now, there's things I could do. See, this area of the hair is not perfect yet. Let me just click OK. And so this is the background here. Sometimes it's nice to preview it on the background so you can see what's working. I notice that guitar is not this trippy. But you can see this is not looking so bad against the background we're going to use. So sometimes, you know, you don't have to do a ton of work to clean up these areas. We can just go in here, grab the mask, and let's grab a black brush. And with the black brush, you know, I can paint away some of these areas. I don't necessarily need, you know, all of these little bits there. They're not always necessary. And even like some of the flyaway hair is not all necessary. We don't even need that one strand if we don't want. Because you see, the thing is, people are not looking at the original. So they don't know there was a strand of hair there before. And if you really, like sometimes too when you're doing this, you can really get in, and there's a lot of techniques you can use to fix individual strands of hair. But sometimes it's easy to just smoothing it off like that and then just grab a very fine brush and you can literally just paint that hair back in if you want. So let's go over the area of the, go to overselected, hit the X key. We're going to paint with white. And I can just paint back that area. I liked it, but it's not going to work with the piece that we're doing. So we're just painting that back in. And maybe a little bit on that edge there. There we go. All right, starting to get better. Now, obviously the tones and stuff are not matching. We'll look at that in a second. Let's look at the next step now. I liked the guitar too. Before, with that background in there, that's actually make a nice composite, maybe, a surrealistic thing. Okay, so let's look and examine this. First of all, the first thing we want to do is see which direction is the light coming from. This is something that we should do earlier on. Even before we, try and fix all this and all that stuff. Let's see what we've got here. I'm just going to grab a brush so we can look at this. Let's grab a red brush here. And let's hide the background. Let's just look at this. New layer on top. So we're not distracted by the background. Can I draw with that? Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's look for lighting. So I'm noticing here that let's zoom in a little bit. It's kind of a low contrasty scene, so there's not a lot of, she's in the shadow, obviously. So we have light. Obviously, we can see the light coming from here, there. So we've got light coming down. We know that. Looking on her face, I can see it's coming from that side. See how that cheek is being lit up? We can see the forehead there is getting light. Okay. So why don't we look at something like the headband and see where the shadows are? Okay, I can see shadows are underneath. I can see shadows are a little bit to the left. See what we're doing? See the shadows there? Let's look over here. We got a little bit of shadow there. Shadow here. Under there a little bit. So you're looking under the chin is shadow. So, we're looking here. It's not like, looks like we got light coming from that side as well. We've got shadow in here, which is no surprise. Looks like you can see the highlights here. So we've definitely got light coming from this direction. When it's not like such a strong light source, it's flatter. Sometimes it's harder to tell. But if you look on here, these are things I want you guys to learn. See how we've got light there, we've got light there, we've got light there. So we know light's coming from that direction. Light's definitely hitting her here. We've got shadow there, see that? So where's the shadow coming from? The opposite of there. So we've got arrows coming in here, little shadow in there. So light's coming in there. All right, so we can just so what we're doing is we're examining. We've got shadow here, but sometimes these little nook and cranny areas are not necessarily telling a lot. We can see under here. It looks like I didn't do a good job of painting that back, but we've got shadow there. Right, so we can definitely see. And if that doesn't look like that, just grab that brush and just let me pull that up because I didn't paint that all the way. Let's just paint that back in. Now here's a trick. If you want to see if you got those areas or not, just hold down the Alt or the Option key, click on the mask, and you can see, oh, there's gray there. We don't want that gray, just paint it back. So sometimes you're not sure if your masking was fully there or not, like we weren't. And then to show the image, just click back on the image. There we go, that's nice and clean. All right, so we've got an indication. If we're looking where all these arrows are, we can see where the light is. Now it's possible the photographer used, you can see we've got light on the back there. It's possible they used a fill light or they used some kind of a reflector. So the light you're getting is, when you're looking at a photograph that someone else shot, there might be a combination of lights in there. So at least we know, okay, the lighting is more or less, should be coming from here. So let me hit the brush. So we know this is more or less where the lighting should be coming from if we average all of this. Yeah, there's some light in here, but I don't think that's part of the scene. Great. All right, so we've got that. Let's look at the background. Let's hide our model. Where's the light coming from here? Very obvious. Very, very obvious. And why is that? Because we can see. And I know this is maybe not the most exciting part, but this is really important for you guys to learn. I can tell the light's coming from this direction, and the reason for that is the shadows. Now, if we look at these shadows, notice they're blue. So we've got blue in those shadows. Interesting. Let's have a look at our hippie girl. What color are the shadows here? Yeah, a bit more neutral. Her highlights have definitely got yellows in there, right? So we've definitely not got the same. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm looking at this and I see overall that the lighting, the brightness and the darkness is not the same, but the direction of the lighting is good. Had these shadows been on the other side, we'd have to flip her the other way. So it's going to work. There's a fill light in here, and that's okay, because if you're shooting that fill light in real life, that background is still going to have lighting coming in the same direction. Okay, good. So if we want to look at the tones, I'm going to go and create an adjustment layer, and I'm going to create a black and white adjustment layer. So this black and white, what it does is it gets rid of the influence of color, and now we can look at the tonality, or we can look at the contrast. So I'm looking here, the shadows are not as dark on here as they are on here. The highlights, so there's a little difference going on here in brightness. Notice the whites are brighter here and not so much in the background. All right, so what I'm going to do is let's make some adjustments. And right now we're making adjustments just purely based on the tones, not the color. So let's go and create an adjustment layer. We could do levels or curves. I'm just going to use levels because they're easier to use. And I'm just going to click on there. Now I have, a lot of the time I will use curves. Most of the time I personally will. And I've got other lessons there where I teach it. But let's just go with levels right now just to keep it simple so we can focus on the compositing. So I'm noticing that the brights are very, very bright in here. So we've got shadows, midtones, highlights. So I'm going to pull these highlights back. Now you can't drag that to the right, but you can go in here and you can drag this a little to the left, and notice it takes those brighter areas and just subdues them a little bit. Same thing with the shadows. If the shadows are too strong, you want to roll off the blacks, just pull this in a little bit. There we go. And so what we're doing is instead of applying it, we're actually reducing that a little bit. And notice how it's starting to match a little bit better now. Great. Let's look at these midtones. So we're going to grab the little thing here and just move that with the midtones. And I'm matching those a little bit better. I feel like the foreground is looking more like the background now. Okay. Now if we turn off the black and white and we look back at the color image, here it is before that adjustment and there it is after. Now the color's not right yet. Let's look at it here. We're getting the tones right. I don't even care about the color right now. Okay, so let's go to the background and let's do the same thing. Let's add another levels adjustment. Now, if you're shooting your own composites, it's a lot easier. You can match that lighting. But if you're just taking photos like we did here from stock, then you're going to go with, two completely different cameras. Everything's different. Okay, so I'm looking at this. I'd like to see a little bit more strength in the shadows. So let's take this and just pull it in a little bit. There we go. A little more contrast into the shadows in the background. Now you could go and you could measure these if you really wanted to go in there. You could grab the eyedropper tool. Where's the info panel? This is something I don't do very often, but just to show you guys with the info panel, we could go in here and we could look at the darker areas and we could tap on those darker areas. And, oh, by the way, if you use this other eyedropper, maybe we'll do this as another lesson sometime. You could go in there, you could tap there in the sample. That'll drop a sample, and that'll give you your values there. Now, I can click on there, and I can change this. So if I wanted to do something like, total ink, I could see it's 68, 69% there. Then I could go in the background here, and I could drop the second one. And on the second one, let's change this. Have you guys ever done this before? Let me know. Total ink. Okay, that's not quite what I want. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So out of 255, okay. But let me go to grayscale. There we go. 83% grayscale. Let me go to grayscale over here. All right, there we go. Okay, so we're only looking at 40% here, which seems kind of weird. Let me just get that right in there. That's what it's telling me, what I'm getting versus that other eyedropper. There we go. Choose the layer, Colin. Okay, that's better. We were working on a levels adjustment. That's why it was all weird. Okay, so here we go. Now we're looking at this. Okay, so we're getting 96% here in the shadows on here. And we're getting 84% in the shadows on there. So we want to darken this down. Let's go, I'm going to choose these levels again, and I'm going to push in the blacks. A little bit more. Now let's click back on the layer. Now we're at 88%. See that? Let's go back. If I was to push that more, well, actually you can see it. There we go, 94%. So see, we can start to match the shadows here with the shadows there if you wanted to do it by the numbers. Now, I'm not going to do it by the numbers. I'm going to eyeball it. So I'm not going to go quite as strong because I don't want the background really as contrasty. I want the background to be a little less contrasty than the foreground. The reason for that is because atmospheric perspective, distance. So let's pull in here the shadow a little bit. And we're pulling it back. But see how these are starting to match better? So let's look at this. Before we started to match the tones. And then after, see how now they're starting to match. Now let's look at the color. Take the black and white off. The contrast is now matching. See how that contrast looks nice? The colors are still wrong, but the contrast is nice. Now we could go in and we could use these eyedroppers to neutralize in here if we wanted. Or we can do it another way. Let's do it another way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on these. So I want to just keep these together. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to convert that to a smart object. And then I'm going to take this and its levels adjustment and I'm going to right click and I'm going to convert that to a smart object. Alright, so now we've got a smart object for the foreground and we've got a smart object for the background. So I could literally get rid of everything else. So now we've just got these two. And if I want to get back to the levels, I just double click and I can go into those levels and I can do that. But why don't I double click, go in here into the image. So here's the image. Now I'm just going to make a copy of it just for a backup. I'm going to hide that so we're going to work directly on here. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I want to use the match color. We're going to do the neutralize. So let's choose the image adjustment. And I'm doing this a different way than I do it a lot of ways. I just want to show you guys a different way of working here. And we're going to choose the match color and let's see if neutralize works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Whoa, what is all that weirdness that just went in? Okay, so turn that off, turn it on. Ah, I know why. Let's make sure we're working in the correct image. Levels1.psb. And layers merged. Okay. Let's go back to here. That level there. And it's not doing much on that one. Okay. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. So just that's the way it works. Let's go to the other image. We're going to close that out. Save that. Okay, let's look at the background. How's this background going to look? Let's go in here. Image adjustments. Let's go back, choose our match color. And let's hit neutralize on that. Ah, neutralize works on that one. Okay, so that one had a little bit more of a color cast. And let me just save that and let's just see what we've got. And let's go back to our composite. I'm not really digging that, but you know, that's one way of working. But I do like this sunsetty kind of look in the background. So we're going to apply this to her. Okay, I'll show you how to do this. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to rasterize this because the way it works, and let's just go into the match color. Image adjustments, watch this. This match color here will enable us to get that sunset from the background. Watch this. So what we want to do for match color is we want to go into the document we're working on, which is the Untitled 1. So under source, choose Untitled 1. Now we want to choose that layer here. Levels 2 is what we're going to be using. Levels 2 as our color. Now we should see our color across there. Yes, it's too strong. We expected that. And now we're going to start with fade. So we're going to fade this. Let's fade it all the way. So there's our original. Now we're going to start to let some of that color influence come through a little bit. A little bit more. Okay, so we're getting some of that. It's a little bit softer. Let's change the color intensity. And this is just basically saturation. And let's play around with this luminance. Just take it back a little bit. Just playing around. I kind of like that sunny kind of a feel there. Let's just play around a little bit more with the fading. And see what we're doing is we're pulling in the color here from that background. Okay, so PhotoMaker was asking if this would work, and we're doing it right now. So yeah, this is what we're doing. So it's just a matter of just tweaking that. I'm kind of liking where we are. Let's look at this where we were before and where we are after. We're definitely starting to get that color working there. Okay. That's definitely looking a lot better. Now, we're not done. We've got plenty of things we can do here. Let's go into this layer. I'm going to just rasterize this, and let's replace this guy. So let's go up under the... where is it? Is it filter? I forget where they put the edit, I believe. Sky replacement. There we go. It should be under filter, I think. What do you guys think? All right, so clearly we're not going to do this crazy sky. We want a nice kind of sunset-y sky in here. And once again, guys, if you want some of these skies, you know, I've got skies, I like that. Go to photoshopcafe.com/vault, and I'll give you guys some skies for free. If you're already on my mailing list, don't bother because you already have them. All right, so that new sky there is starting to look good. We're getting there. Now, I need to do something with this mess. So why don't we grab the clone stamp tool. And this doesn't have to be perfect. It's just got to kind of look like something. Actually, I'm starting to wonder, maybe not the clone stamp. Let's create a... So let me tell you what I was going to do. I was going to grab the clone and I was going to extend this. And then just kind of blend it in. But I noticed I could maybe just blend it in here. I might not need to use the clone stamp, but that's an option. So if you wanted to kind of extend this out a little bit, use the clone, just grab some of this and just extend it. You could extend it all the way, you could fade it, you could do different things with that. In this case, I think, you know, we're probably just gonna cut it out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab our little selection tool here. This is not gonna get it perfect, but it's going to start. Make sure you select the layer, not the mask. And I'm just going to go down. Okay. That's a little too aggressive. Let's make this smaller. Let's take that hardness down a little bit. And we've got pen pressure turned on. Let's see if this helps us. Just gently. There we go. Well, yeah, it's pretty aggressive. All right. I'm just going to use the brush. I'm going to paint it. So grab the brush. And I'm just going to paint this out. Just grab the mask, black brush. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see... Now, if you have brushes, here's something that's going to work really well for this kind of thing. Is you just going to kind of paint it away. And then what you want is a brush that's kind of in the shape of that grass. And then you can invert this. Now, I should use a hard edge there. I'm too lazy. You're looking for a brush that has that. Let's go under the brushes here. And if we go under our brushes, the legacy brushes, I believe, have something that looks like a grass kind of a brush. And you can create your own brushes that have these shapes, and they just make it very, very easy to kind of get rid of what we're about to do here. Let's look under some of these basic brushes, assorted brushes. I don't want to spend a ton of time looking for brushes, but just let you guys know this is what you can do. Let's go under these basic brushes maybe. Legacy brushes, that's what I was looking for. No. So there's one in here, it's like a grass brush. And I don't want to spend a ton of time like searching for it, but it's in here. Does anyone know what set that's in? Let me know. If you know that, just pop it into the comment there and it will save me looking for it. Is that check in there? Alright, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time. I'll basically show you how it works. But there's a grass brush in there somewhere. And I don't want to spend a ton of time looking for it, guys. So basically, with that brush, you would just choose that shape. And then you're just going to go in here and you're going to paint with the opposite. And then that would enable you to just kind of paint back in that grass. I'm just faking. I'm just painting something that looks like grass. But if you use the brush that's shaped like that, you can just very quickly do that. And then rather than trying to cut something out that's difficult, you can just kind of paint it in. But if it's a grass brush, like, see, I'm actually just painting grass. But if you have the brush that's in the shape of that, you know, you don't have to. But see how we can get these individual strands like that and just painting those in? So much easier than trying to cut them out one at a time. And, you know, if I wanted to make it perfect, I'd be doing some of the same over here too, like some of those. So yeah, don't spend a ton of time painting things when you don't need to. All right, so we've got a couple more things we can do to pull this together now. I want to blur the background a little bit, so let's grab that background here. I'm going to convert it to a smart object, right click, and let's go under blur, and we're going to use the blur gallery, and let's use a field blur. So we're going to use a field blur, which means that this point here, I can set this to be as blurry as I want, and this is why I use this sometimes rather than a gradient, because you have the flexibility. So I'm going to take it over here. I know everything in this distance is going to be blurry. I want everything up close to be sharp, so we're going to add a second point. Now, let's take that blur all the way to 0, just by dragging it down. And by the way, quick way to do that, hold down Control Command, double click on that point, and that will also take it to 0 if you want to get there quicker. All right, so I know there's no blur here. I want to blend this blur or fade it a little bit across the grass. So as we take that, see how we can blend this blur to, rather than just having the background blurry and the foreground, you know, just the whole thing, and it just looks fake. Keep the foreground sharp, background blurry. Play around with the amount of blur you want. And we can just basically dial in our depth of field. You know, if you want to go crazy like that, it looks terrible. We're not going to do that. We're just going to do it here. Add a little blur there. Now, if you wanted to do the same thing to the sky, you could. We'll get to that in a sec. Let's just go in here. Or you could just, you know, put it all into one smart object is another way too. And we're going to apply here. I'm not going to blur the sky. Maybe a little bit in the distance. Okay, so here's our area there. There's our sky. Let's do the same thing just in the distance. So with that there, we're going to choose Filter Blur, hit Blur Gallery, and see how it looks. If it doesn't look good, we'll undo it. Yeah, it didn't do much. Let's undo that. I'm just going to leave that sky. All right, so we're kind of starting to build up a little bit of depth of field here now. Let's go back to our black and white and see how things are starting to look. See, when we take away the color, we get a much clearer indication. So this is like a helper layer. So we'll just call it helper. It's a helper layer letting us know, hey, this is just, it's not the effect, but it's helping me understand what's going on. But here's one of the things you can do with this. It's kind of fun. Is if I take the opacity all the way down, and I want to go cinematic, I can just put in a little black and white. So what it's doing is it's reducing the color. And so you can start to go a little bit more cinematic. But what it's also doing is it's showing me, you know, where is the saturation starting to drop off in some of this versus other areas. This is actually going to work. So what I want to do now is maybe just apply a lot over the top of this or a gradient map. I'm thinking a gradient map might look nice. So let's go under the adjustment layers and we're going to choose a gradient map. Now this gradient map enables us to apply different colors. So let me just choose something. I'm choosing the options. We want to go under legacy gradients and then you'll see when it's photographic toning. Let's try some of these. So I'm going to choose one of these. Now obviously when I do this, this is going to give us a sepia tone kind of thing, which is kind of nice. Actually that one's really nice. Now, we can choose to do two things. We can just blend this and just kind of blend it in with the original. It's kind of interesting. Or we can just affect the color. So we go down to color mode and we take the opacity to nothing. So that tone's not going to change and we're just changing the color. Or we can forget the color and just choose luminosity. And as we apply this, see how it's only going to change the luminosity? So these are different ways of kind of bringing this together. I'm going to use color. And by just doing that a little bit, we're just kind of giving it a little bit of influence. And that's an interesting way to start to bring the image together by layering color over the top. Now, if you just wanted to hit the highlights or the shadows, we could go under there and we could choose our adjustment. Let's go into effects and we can choose blending options. So here's another thing. Whoops, just dropped my water there. Don't worry. That's why I drink out of a bottle and not a glass. Because otherwise there'd be water all over the floor. Okay, so what we're going to do is blend if. Watch this. If I take the left side down, notice what it's doing is it's rolling it away and it's only affecting the highlights now, not the shadows. If we go the other way, notice now, well, sorry, it's rolling it off the shadows and it's only affecting the highlights. If we go this way, it rolls it off the highlights and now it only affects the shadows. See that? So it gives us a little bit of control so we can apply that LUT. Let's go this way and split it. Hold down the Alt or the Option key, gives us a smooth blend. And then we can use this to apply just the LUT just to part of the photo. So if we just want to hit certain tones with that, well, not the LUT, sorry, the gradient map. So we can, just target where we want to hit the image. But anyway, so we're kind of looking at this. So we took a couple of images that were, I'm still not loving it. I'm going to do a little bit of adjustment here myself now. So let's do this. Watch this. I'm going to go in here. Now I'm going to eyeball it. I'm going to apply a curves adjustment. And I'm going to Alt or Option. Let's just go there. And so what this is going to do is it's going to apply this. Now watch this. When I Alt or Option click, rather than affect the whole image, it's just affecting that one. And I think I know why this wasn't working that great for my liking. Let me reset that. Is because this already had some kind of a color effect applied to it. So this might be a good place. Even before I do that, let's go into levels, Control L. I'm going to try the eyedroppers just quickly. I wish there was an area of gray in here, though. I'm just not seeing. Oh, maybe the rocks. There we go. Boom. We got the rocks in gray. Okay, this is going to work. Just that alone is getting me a lot closer to where I want to be. Sweet. Okay. That's definitely getting me more where I want to be. Alright, so we neutralize those gray tones. Let's go back in while we're doing those levels and let's see what happens if we hit the blacks and whites. Control L. Probably should have done this in the beginning. It was my tutorial I did this week. Hold down Alt. Hang on, let's go here. Looking for that adjustment in my levels. Looking for the darkest part. Why is it nothing happening? Is the preview off? Let's just do that again. For some reason that was not applying properly. Oh, there we go. Now it's working. That was weird. Hold down Alt or Option. There we go. Now we can see where our clipping is. Let's grab this, find the darkest part of the image. Boom, we can neutralize it there. The lightest part, this is probably going to just be way too contrasty. I don't think the highlight work is going to work on this particular shot. Yeah, let's undo that. So we're not going to use the highlight, we're just going to use that. I'm liking that. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm just manually going in here and I'm tweaking this. Let's just take those midtones down a little bit. I feel like that's looking better. Too much in the shadows, let's pull those off. So what we're doing here, now we're starting to get this to match a little bit better. Let's go back to the curves adjustment that I created. And under these curves, we're going to go into the color. So we're going to use red. So let's watch what happens when we take that red and see how we can see how it's matching the image. Now that's the midtone. If I wanted to do it more into the shadows, notice how we can add more red into the shadows or less. So I'm liking that. Let's go to the highlights. Maybe a little bit. Let's go into the next channel, which is the greens. Do we want to do anything with the greens? Maybe not yet. We'll come back to the greens. Let's go to the blues. Doing the highlights. See how we can just choose how much. So by the way, it's going to go yellow is the opposite of blue. And I'm looking at the highlights right now. I'm trying to match that with the brightest parts of the image. I'm kind of liking that. Let's hit the shadows. That's looking pretty good. I'm kind of liking that. See what I'm doing here? And then we're using the greens. I'm just eyeballing it, and honestly, for me, a lot of the time, I'm best at eyeballing it. And I'm looking for kind of a natural thing. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Let's see how it looks before and after. Yeah, I like that. But maybe we don't want the whole thing. Let's take the opacity and just dial in a little bit. So I'm kind of liking that tone a little bit better than what we had before. And yeah, I feel like I want to neutralize the back a little bit too. So we can turn off here. Let's go in there, and I'm going to do the same thing. Let's create an adjustment. Watch this. Let's create a curves adjustment, and we'll do this quickly. Okay, so this curve is going to affect the background. Let's go into the colors. Let's choose the red and the highlights. There we go. Pull that back just a little bit. Like that. Shadows. I'll pull it back just a little bit as well. I just feel the effect was too much. Let's go into the green. Actually, forget the greens. Go to the blues. So this is going to be blues to yellows. Yeah. I like that. There we go. I like that. And see what we're doing? We're doing the color correction here. And let's go into greens. And in the green, I'm just going to use the midtones in the green just for the overall correction. Oh, see how that's matching much better now? I like that. So this is how I do manual color correction. And one of the things I might do with something like this, though, is because I want this to be faded and going into the background, I might go take this all the way to, hang on a sec. Let me go into here, create a new adjustment layer, and I'm going to do a hue saturation. And maybe roll back the saturation a little bit. See, if you pull the saturation back, it starts to give you a little bit more of atmosphere. And maybe the lightness is pull it up just a touch. There we go. So see what that does is it just kind of makes the background less vivid. See, if the background's as vivid as the foreground, it doesn't look as realistic. If you make it more faded, now it starts to look a little bit more realistic. But if you feel like you want some of that color and the vibrance in the sky, still just use the mask. Grab a gradient. I'm going to use the black to white gradient and see if we do this the right way. That way. There we go. So now we're fading. We've got that nice deep sky in the foreground of the sky, but as it goes into the background, we get less of it. And of course, you know, let me show you, if you really went hard with this, this is what's happening. Just so you can see. Notice as I'm doing that, you can see blending that sky. The closest part of the sky still got the color, but the background doesn't. So we just want to put atmosphere in there. We can do that. So it starts to look a little hazy, foggy, whatever, as we're going into the background. See how that's starting to add a little bit more realism to this? And I would probably also do the same at the bottom here. So let's create another gradient. But we've got a problem here, right? Because if I apply a new gradient, it's going to mess up the top. So what we're going to do is use the black to transparent. So let's choose the top gradient here. Black to transparent. Watch this. Apply a little bit here. So the foreground is going to be vivid. There we go. And now it goes hazy in the background. And see how that's starting to look much more natural. So as we start to play around a little bit more, we can start to add more realism to these composites. So, you know, the more you mess with them, the more realistic. And let's see what it looks like without the sky replacement. So if you're looking at there with no sky replacement, I don't know. I like the sky replacement. I think it was a little just plain and boring. So anyway, guys, hopefully this is kind of useful and you're getting some value out of this. So one of the things I would do, is dodging and burning to kind of start to match the color. And I do that a lot. I don't think we're going to do it this week. Just, because of time. But I think, you've seen a lot of other composites where I go in, and this is where we just really do the micro adjustments here. I've got other tutorials on it on Photoshop Cafe and on YouTube on dodging and burning. And that will just match, the lighting, because here we need to add more shadow onto her because obviously it's just a different time of day when the light's hitting here. I said I wasn't going to do it. Let me just do a quick, just a little tiny bit so you can see so I don't leave you hanging. So hold down the Alt Option key, create a new layer. Let's do that. There we go. And that gives us the ability to put it into overlay blending mode. And let me just quickly show you. I'm just going to pop this all the way to the top, and I'll just call this DB for Dodge Burn. Let me just show you quickly, because this will make sense. So when you're trying to get something like more realistic, and this is a challenge, you know, getting these images to match is definitely a challenge because they're very, very different. Let's take our flow down to about 10%. We've got a black brush. I'm going to do the size of this brush down to a regular soft brush. There we go. Hardness all the way down. It's going to work. Flow to 10, shift 1 will get you to 10%. And let me just quickly show you. You'll see. You guys have seen me do this before, but I just want to make sure my pen pressure here is set to transfer. Pen pressure, opacity. And then this is what brings it together. See how we got these deeper shadows here? We don't have that on the image when we start to do this. Now we start to paint in these deeper shadows. And this is where, you know, things will really start to match. Because we probably had a fill light there. We want to kind of get rid of that. So I'm just starting to paint some shadow in here now. And it was a very low contrast, maybe overcast kind of when this front photo was taken versus a direct sunlight in the background, different time of the day. So you're taking different photos. You've got a harsher light and you're trying to mix that with one with a very flat light. So this is where, you know, painting in these shadows will give the impression that the light's a little bit harsher. I'm doing this super fast. Normally, you know, as I say, I spend a little bit more time on this, but I just want you to see how this will start to change the overall feel of the image and start to make it just feel more realistic. So we're increasing the shadow. So we're getting more of a shadow like what we're getting. Like more like a harsher light. You see as we're starting to do this, there it is before, after. You know, obviously, you know, we're going to spend a little bit of time in there, get that lighting right. But as you can see, by doing that, now we're going to start to get more of a level of realism. And then we do the same there. We'd grab a white and we'd start painting some of these areas that would be hit with an even harsher light. You know, the highlight areas would be just boom. And you'd just be kind of doing it maybe a little bit on the guitar there. And by doing these kind of things, we would start to match the light quality more with what's going on in the background. So anyway, but I feel like the saturation's a little bit high on our foreground now, so I would want to do something, or just overall. So why don't we turn that black and white helper layer here. Let's select that. So the black and white helper layer, I'm just going to take that and just turn up a little bit, reduce the saturation just a touch. There we go. Boom! Loving that. Much better. See that? Before, after, we're just dropping that saturation down overall. And now I feel like we're starting to get something, you know, we're getting closer to something that I think, you know, we would call, you know, we'd call a composite. I mean, you know, there's still a little bit of work we can do on here. Is it perfect? No, but, you know, I've spent an hour on this, you know, in front of a live audience. Not being able to experiment maybe as much as I would, you know, in the real world, but I think we're definitely off to a good start here, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, you know, for a start. So hopefully you guys found this useful. You know, if you did, do me a favor and hit that like button, guys. How are we doing for likes? Let's see where we're at. 103 likes. Oh, that's good. Good job, guys. We got us over 100. Thank you for that. And if you guys are new here and you haven't subscribed, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, and you'll know when I go live as well as when I do videos. So also let you guys know that I do every Tuesday morning, I drop a new video, just a quick one. Lately I've been doing these quick tips. Have you guys been watching those? I mean, obviously you know about the live streams here at 1, but you guys also watch those quick little videos. So lately I've been doing just short, like 3-minute videos, just focusing pinpoint on one little thing. Do you guys like that? Let me know there in the comments what you guys feel about that. Thank you. You guys saying here you like how this is coming out. It's useful. Thank you, Photo Maker. Says he likes how it turned out. Michael Stein, thank you. Tracy, good to see you again. These are all regulars. By David Hallstock there. Shift click delete for something. Stuart Braithwaite, kia ora from New Zealand. Amazing. Thank you. P. Steelman, good to see you again. Thank you, Colin. Superb lesson. Thank you. You got it. Linda, nice to see you. Zach Multimedia. Thank you. Ralph, good to see you. Ralph Bocock, you watch them? Awesome. Do you guys like those? You like these little short ones? Cal Berry from Australia, live. First time. I'm glad you could join us live. Thank you for getting up early for that. I believe it's early in the morning for you, is it? And you guys like the short videos? Linda does. Jane likes the short videos. Great. And then we got Hannah there. You're welcome, Hannah. Russ, Tuesday tips are really good. Thank you. And I noticed that Russ there comments, and so does David Holstock, comments on them all the time. So thanks for that. Guys, feel free to drop a comment. It's nice to see the LFL crew there on those regular videos too. It's nice. The Tuesday tips is kind of what we're doing now. Susan Wilson, thank you for another great LFL. See you next week for sure. D. Abeleto, 6 great tips. You've got it. Chris Bacon, good to see you. Donald Haynes, Total Rewatch with so many useful tips. Well, I'm glad, it's a funny thing about compositing, you go there and sometimes it looks like it's just, well, you just saw me do it. Sometimes it's just like, man, it's not working, we're not getting there. Don't give up, just keep going. And as you saw, eventually we're able to move things and just find those trouble areas, hit them. And then the more you do that, the more things start to come together. And, we start to get the realism. So sometimes a composite can look really bad for 80% of the time, but just keep working at it, and then you just hit that thing, and at the end it all comes together. And very often that happens. Sometimes it doesn't even look good until I do the dodging and burning. Sometimes it doesn't look good until I do the color correction. But that's why we do things like those helper layers, as you noticed. So we're not focusing on the color, we're focusing on the tones. And just, eventually we can get to those things. You can't do everything at once. So hopefully that was useful. Anyway, John Caffo, Rod Shelley, good to see you. Polka Dot Studio, good to see you. Thank you. Need to rewatch. Doug Sampson, thank you. Alistair, good to see you again. Regular. Deborah Hahn, after watching the whole thing, I feel with the insert. Without the insert, you would do better. I love this session and use the airbrush. Okay, so Deborah didn't like the insert so much. She prefers a full screen. Okay. Probably didn't like me picking my nose and drinking the water either. Sorry, I'm making fun of myself again. Deprivating humor. Janice, lots of new things will replay. Zach Multimedia, need to fix my photo again. Yes, we do. We did one last week. Maybe we need to do a full one of those. That's a good suggestion. See you later, Rolf. David. Talk about removing those info panel pins, Colin. Shift click. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Let's get rid of those. My apologies. Those color samples were just sitting there the whole time. Okay, yes. Command or Option key, and then you can click on them, and they get rid of... Yeah, sorry I left those the whole time, guys. But those are just kind of useful. Another indicator that you can use to see what's going on. If you want to do it by the numbers, which works. I personally work better at eyeballing than I do by the numbers, which is why I don't do that very often. Orcapass, good to see you. Thank you. She says, thank you, Colin. Thank you. Bye, Pigeon River. Later. All right. Well, Udgear, good to see you. Rosie. Deborah. Love that part. Oh, good. Yes, I want to try to... and Philip, thank you. Yeah, it's good to kind of show different ways. Like some people like to work eyeballs, some people like to work by the numbers. So I'm going to try and show as many varying techniques as I can so you can grab the techniques that work best for you, because one size does not, fit all at all. You got to find what works for you. Okay. All right. So, all right, guys. Well, I think it's time. I'm going to move on now. It's lunchtime. It was good to see you. So I hope you tune in again next week, 1 p.m. Pacific time. I look forward to seeing you all here at Live from Lockdown. And until then, I'll drop a new video for you guys on Tuesday. If you didn't see last Tuesday's, check it out. Just right there on YouTube. If you see the interface there, you see YouTube, you'll see Photoshop Cafe. Let me just show you quickly how that works for those of you, if you don't know. Because I know not everybody here is familiar with YouTube. And if you're not, see where it says Photoshop Cafe, just click on there and that will take you to the channel. And that will show you all the videos I have. So, check out ones you might have missed. Anyway, guys, I'm going to see you all next week. And let's go.